Okay. Perfect. All right, well, let's get started. We'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the Barney Miller's Facebook Live Tech and Design series. Tonight's conversation is going to be around smart home solutions with Control4. My name is Risa Schultz, and I'm joined by Allison Lopez. We're from WeConekt, and we'll be moderating tonight's conversation. We're excited to be joined by a panel of industry experts. I'll ask each of you if you could just introduce yourselves, tell us your name, your company, and a little bit about what you do. Barney, why don't you go first?
Okay, I'm Barney Miller. I'm the third generation owner at Barney Millers Incorporated. We're an electronic systems contractor on Main Street in Lexington. And we just celebrated our 99th year in business this past June. So an incredible history.
Awesome. Perfect. Kevin, why don't you go next?
Sure. My name is Kevin Reardon. I am the area sales manager for Snap One. Snap One is the company that owns Control4. And we are actually a new publicly traded company starting today. So it's kind of interesting, kind of exciting for us. Yes. So, but I am an actual regional sales manager. I travel around and call on the integrators in the Indiana, Kentucky market and support them.
Great. Perfect. And David?
Yeah, I'm David Atchison with Atchison Construction. We haven't been around quite as long as Barney Miller, but I'm a second generation. We started in 78, I believe it was. And we are a custom home builder and remodeler here in Lexington in the central Kentucky area.
Very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us tonight. If you're watching at home, feel free to leave comments or questions in the chat box, and we'll get to those towards the end of our conversation. So let's do this. Barney, smart home automation means different things to different people. Some people think if they have an Alexa or they have a Ring doorbell that they may have a smart home. Can you talk to us about the different levels of smart home automation?
Yeah, sure. So smart homes can be like you said, a lot of different things, but the mass market, you might have 5 or 6 or 7 apps to, control your home. And things don't really work together quite often that way. We see a lot of people trying to kind of do it yourself, and they don't normally really get the level of satisfaction that they're after, I think. Things might be buggy or it just works separately, you might say. So fully integrated smart home systems are really where the power is. So you can do different scenes and actions and really get the performance out of all these different systems working hand in hand together. Like an example, I've got a good night scene at my home. So we can either talk to it and say, good night, or we can push a button that says good night. It makes sure my garage door's down. It arms my security system. It turns out lights in like 4 different rooms. It makes sure my TV's off in my family room and my kitchen, and it turns off my patio fan and patio TV and lights. So, and it also makes sure the shades are down. And so there's a lot that goes on, and that's the power of being integrated together.
Great. I mean, that's a great explanation. And, the scene you described, the good night, is actually my favorite. Not to have to worry about, walking around your home and thinking, oh my God, did I forget something? I mean, the beauty, I think, about automation is that you can kind of program things to do, whatever you do repetitively, all your routines, right? You can program it to do that, and it's one touch and it all happens.
The mundane tasks that you do every day. How many light switches would you flick in a day? How many blinds or shades would you raise up and down? Would you, have to worry about locking the doors? You might have 3 doors in your house or something like that, and have to lock all those. So it really can simplify, make your life easier, better, and more fun. That's what I tell people.
Yeah. So Kevin, you work for Control4. And, we're pretty familiar with the system. So, help our audience understand, the scalability of the system, because a lot of people feel like, okay, we have to do all of these things Barney just talked about. So talk
Sure.
A little bit about
that is the beauty. That really is the beauty of a Control4 system, is you can start with just a basic system. You can do a little bit of audio distribution throughout the home, And then as you move along, you can add HVAC control. You can add shading control. You can add lighting control. You can add security. You can tie in surveillance. There's just a lot of things that you can do with it. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can start small and then expand as you have a budget to do it. So it makes it very nice for dealers to not have to spend it all in one shot. So
Yeah. Go ahead, Barney.
If I could, you can even start, I'll tell people you can start with a small processor and a handheld remote control just to turn your TV and sound bar on. And then from there, that gets you an app that can control that and maybe even stream some music that way. And then you can just go from there. That little package starts at $5.99 with a remote control. There's some programming in addition to that, but not that much. So it's really very affordable starting point.
Wow. That's I had no idea that it could start at that price point. That's incredible. Wow. Awesome. So David, I know that your company and Barney, you've worked on projects together. You're with a construction company. Could you talk to us a little bit about, maybe one of the projects that you worked on and give us an example of how you work with integrators such as Barney Miller?
Yeah, we actually just recently finished up a project for some customers who have had a Control4 system for a very long time and have continued to expand it. And as we put a large addition on the project, there was an opportunity to kind of update some of the features throughout the existing parts of the home. And then also really, like we've said, is as your budget continues, as your budget allows, continue to expand that system. And they really took that to the nines with the audio and the TV features and the scene settings and all of that stuff, which is just really cool to see come together. As far as, implementing all of that stuff, I think just getting someone like Barney Miller's involved really early in that process is critical. And it helped set us up for success during that project. And that's typically how we like to try to approach it, every time.
Great. Barney, what is your process when you start to work with a client? Can you talk to us a little bit about your process?
Definitely. So education is first and foremost. I really think that, people need to know what their options are. We want to get feedback from the client and make sure what their main interests are, so we can aim them in the right direction. We've got a really expansive showroom on Main Street, and we want to take people on what we call a technology tour around the showroom. We've got almost every type of technology that we sell on display. And so I think once people can, hear and feel and touch and experience this type of technology, it really gives them a good idea what they may want in their home. So education is huge for us. We've also got on our website a budget builder. So they can go right on our website, and depending on, the types of things they're interested in, they can go through and actually get an idea of budget right out of the gate. So without even our help, it's pretty user intuitive. So, trying to get an idea of budget, education, what their interests are. And then we look at, house plans. If it's a new construction, we do a walkthrough. If it's an existing home, and, try to come up with a really good proposal, a good plan of attack, I should say. We'll come up with the drawings and specifications and things like that. And, the process just evolves from there.
Great.
And
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I agree. There's nothing like going to a showroom and experiencing this technology, because it's like when you're buying high-end audio speakers, or when you can actually push the button and watch the blinds go up in your house. That really creates that desire. Like, I want this in my home. It's this luxury. It's this, it's one thing to hear it, but it's another thing to actually experience it. So it's so nice that you have all of that technology on display in your showroom. And I encourage everybody, if you've never been there before, you should definitely stop by and check it out.
So Barney, you have like a full theater set up, home theater. You have the Control4 system. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what are the different experiences you have?
Oh yeah, in the showroom we've got 3 home theaters with 4 home theaters with video projectors. So we've got that, and we've got multiple rooms with flat panel TVs. Each room has lighting control, one remote solution, very good audio, theater seating. So really get a good idea there. But then we've also got an area that deals with outdoor entertainment, because that's a huge popular thing nowadays. And, instead of, a couple little speakers up on the eave of your house that's too loud when you're sitting near them and not loud enough somewhere else, we're really doing a great job with what we call landscape speaker systems. All weather TVs are extremely popular, and outdoor network, so you can sit out in your backyard and be on your network, is very popular too. And then, if you just want to sit down and listen to, a record on a turntable and a 2-channel system, some people set up, like just a nice little room where you can maybe have an adult beverage or something and just sit down and relax after work and listen to some music. So we've got some really nice stereo systems set up there too. Networking and camera systems, and we've got all the touch screens set up. We've got a whole wall, what we call a Control4 Experience Center set up. So you can, see what the thermostats look like, the touch screens, keypads, lighting controls, extremely popular. And you can get different types of, like a rocker dimmer or a multi-button, switch. And so really it's amazing how many different things we can show people. Probably takes, 30 minutes is kind of a good, fairly brisk walk through our showroom. And if you want to sit down and, really get some goosebumps and watch, an incredible concert scene or something like that, or a cool movie scene, then we've got all that ready to go. We've got a movie server set up from Kaleidoscape, which is cool. So we can access just tons of movie scenes right out of the gate. So it's really fun to do, I think. We get a kick out of showing people around and showing off some technology.
Yeah, I've been following you on social media, and I see some of your showroom and the demos you've been doing, and it looks really exciting. So, grab your cocktails, and I'm sure Barney will provide the popcorn, and head over to Barney Miller.
That's right.
I think David has-
you were waving before. Did you have a comment?
No, I'm good. You all actually touched on it anyway, so all good.
Okay, go ahead, Reese.
No, that's what I was trying to say. I saw David had his hand before.
Oh, okay. So, this next question, was because Barney started, there's a lot going on with home automation, right? I mean, the lights, the audio, the video, and so on. Tell us on the construction side, David, what's going on with wires? Because I'm sure, we all know this requires a lot of wiring. What are you guys doing for pre-wiring, and how important is that when the walls are down?
It's very important. I think, Barney would definitely, second it, that a hardwired connection, that's always what they stress to us, is a hardwired connection is going to be a lot better for a lot of the stuff that you're trying to do, whether it's streaming on your TV or, working on your computer at your home office. I think getting all that stuff hardwired in is pretty critical. As far as that process goes, again, the earlier, the better that you're able to get that stuff in. But we're not locked in by any means, even really ideally you want the hardwired connection, but I think you also there's so many decisions that need to be made while you're planning a home that you want to get in and start making those decisions for your home automation. But something that we've done with a lot of success with Barney Millers and our electricians is once we have the house framed up, we do what's called an electric walkthrough prior to the electrician and Barney Miller starting. So we have a package that's been designed. Barney Miller has gone through their education program with the clients, walked them through. They've kind of put together a package of what our clients are going to receive from Barney Millers. And then we'll walk through the project when it's just kind of the bones of it. It's just stud walls. And you walk through and it really gives the customer an opportunity to feel the space. And maybe there's an area that they said they didn't want speakers. Maybe it's their master bathroom or their master bedroom or anywhere. And they just realized, I could maybe see myself spending a lot of time here. And, I might want to listen to some music or, security camera, which Barney, they do a great job of all of that stuff. But there are just little things that it's hard to look at two-dimensionally on a plan, especially when you're not in it every day, looking at that stuff. So I think opportunities like that, when you can bring our clients into the space, coordinate that with the home automation, it just really kind of gives a great experience for the customer during the project and makes them feel like they're getting a great product and that they're going to be comfortable with it.
Yeah. You know, one of the great things about smart home automation is that it's so personal, right? And I know Control4, Kevin, maybe you can comment on this. You know, the system really allows for serious deep levels of personalization. Can you tell us a little bit about that and about some of the scenes you can create with Control4?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that the end users can do or customers can do on their own. A lot of the control systems out there on the market, there's just no way to make changes. If you want to change the background on something, you can't do that, right? If you want to add a family photo to the background of your in-wall touch panel in the master bedroom, you can do that. You can, if you want to get rid of buttons that you don't use all the time, you can make changes to those on the fly. So there's a lot of things that you can do from a personalization standpoint that you don't need, you know, an integrator to do. So once Barney and his team come in and set the system up, there's just a lot of flexibility that the end user can have on his own to modify the system to their own liking. There's a lot of things that they can do. I mean, they can change, they can create scenes, right, that will allow them to do anything like Barney was saying earlier, as far as his good night scene. A customer can make a good night scene on their very own. They don't have to call Barney's to come down there and do that for them. They can actually do that on their own. So they can press one button and they can, you know, turn the lights off and they can lock all the doors and they can make sure that the garage door is closed and all that. And they can change that at any given time. And they can add to that or take away from that particular scene at any given moment.
Yeah, I think one of the products that Control4 makes, I know you started venturing into like the Chime doorbell, but one of the products that stand out in my mind regarding personalization is the Neo remote. You know, the touch screen remote. I mean, I think that's a really cool product where, you know, you can sit in front of your TV and be able to control your entire home from your remote.
Yes, it's great. The little Neo remote is a very, very popular remote. It's extremely well built. It's built like has the build quality of like an iPhone, right? So the build quality is all machined aluminum. It's extremely well built, but it's beautiful. You can do it with the Neo remote. But the other thing about our systems is you can do it with any Android device or any iOS device as well, right? So you can have the same experience from any of those platforms that you're using, whether it be a remote control or a phone or a tablet.
Great.
Yep.
Barney, you know, voice is becoming more and more popular, you know, especially I think with COVID. You know, people went into this whole mode where they didn't want to touch things anymore. So creating a touchless environment, utilizing voice more. Tell us how Control4 integrates with voice.
Yeah. So, you know, the main thing we do, I would say, is the Alexa dot. So, you know, that's been the main way we communicate with it. We are looking into a company called Josh AI, which can interface with Control4. We don't actually offer that yet, but that's something that we're looking at. But I think for kind of general basic things, voice is good. But as far as, you know, changing to ESPN to NBC and that type of thing, you don't want to use voice for that. So
we're not there yet.
Yeah, voice has a really good application for certain scenes type things or certain actions, you might say, but you know, you don't want to overuse it, I guess. And there's also a lot of, you know, kind of automation or integration that we can do that happens automatically. Like my shades go down at dusk and they go up at daylight. So, you know, those types of things. And sometimes if you want your house to turn off at, you know, 10:30 at night, then, you know, that works most of the time, but there might be some times where that could be, you know, a little bit of an inconvenience. So there's a happy medium and a customization that we want to work with the customer and what fits their lifestyle.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think you just used the key word there, lifestyle, and especially when you're talking about personalization too. I mean, I think it's so important, right, for you to understand that family's routines
Yeah.
and what their life is like so that you can match the technology to it. It's not that the technology is going to come and run these people's lives or change the way they live. The technology is there to enhance, right?
Yeah. And Kevin did mention that, you can do some things on your own, but some people still are
Mhm.
intimidated by that. But what a lot of people don't realize is remotely we can change your programming almost everything. And so,
Mhm.
if you just contact us and say, I would rather have this changed, then we can most often do it remotely. Don't ever have to come out to the house, in 15, 20 minutes, it's done.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
a real convenience feature for people, I think.
Yeah, I also think another great thing about Control 4 is that it's compatible with so many other products that's already in the market.
Yes.
So, you might have numerous amounts of electronics and other brands in your home. And, some people might be thinking that, you have to get rid of all of those and buy things that are compatible. And it's not true. You want to talk a little bit about that, Kevin?
Sure. Yes. Control 4 interfaces or works with an enormous amount of third-party products that people may already own. I believe the number is over 12,000 different drivers that we work with different separate products. So yes, there
Mhm.
is an enormous amount of products that you may already have that once you acquire or purchase the processor from Barney, that they can hook it right up and interface it right with it and make it work together.
Right.
So yes, um, yeah, we work. I think more our portfolio. We work with more products, I believe, than any other control system on the market today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I learned about that, I was so surprised. And I do know that what are some of the products? I mean, you're making some products of your own now that's similar to other products that's already on the market. But it doesn't mean that folks have to choose your products. Like, I mean, your video doorbell, for example, Chime. Your product is still compatible with Ring and some other ones.
Yes, Nest. Yeah, Nest thermostats, things like that, things that people may already be using, security systems that they already have. We can interface with most of those.
Yeah, or
Um,
lighting systems with dimmer switches and so on. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's pretty much any controllable lighting system on the market we can work with.
Mhm.
So
Great.
yeah, it's very, very flexible from that standpoint.
Barney?
Yeah, it is a lot of flexibility there, but we don't want to take anything like that for granted. So if a customer already owns some technology, we want to go in to their home, if it's an existing home, and make sure that things are going to work. We don't want to assume that everything's going to work. So even though as unbelievably flexible as Control 4 is, we just want to, what they say, cross the T's and dot the I's to make sure that it is in their database for their drivers and things like that. Security
Yeah.
systems are very flexible, but a security system has to have the connectivity to be controlled by a processor. So,
Mhm.
the little basic little security systems with just the panel on the wall, those don't interface. So you have to have a connectivity
Right.
capability to these devices.
Yes. So, I mean, that brings up another point, right? We can't talk about smart home automation without addressing the network. So, what does the network look like? What are we
Okay.
talking about here?
Yeah. So a network, in the old days, it was a little wireless router supplied by maybe the cable company or something. It's hidden in a closet. And, if you're close enough to it, you can probably get on the internet. But nowadays, there's such a demand on your network. People are streaming, music and TV like crazy nowadays. So, if you're, a lot of people now are talking about 1 gigabit, speed coming into their home. Well, if you've got a wired system and you've got a switch, well, basically, let me explain. So you start with a modem from your internet provider, okay? And then that goes into a router, which is typically a separate box that handles the traffic, you might say. From there, it goes into a switch or switches, which is kind of like a giant splitter. And those splitters can go out to wireless access points, which are like antennas around your house. So we want to make sure you've got good wired connectivity and good wireless connectivity. So no matter where you are in your house, you're going to be okay. And then we all automatically wire like every TV location for network. And then if there's an office or things like that, then we put wall jacks in for network wired capability, because you'll get, generally at least 90% of what you pay for, you might say, on a wired system, and probably 50 to 60% of the speed on a wireless connection. And, wired connections are more secure. They're obviously they're faster. So, it is important, but there is a design process. We kind of can do like a heat map over your house, maybe your back patio, depending on where you want to be in your home. So, things have really evolved, and the demand on the network has really evolved. If you've got cameras and you want to look at your high definition, 4K cameras, when you're away from home, that goes through your network. You want to be able to play back, your cameras, that type of thing. You talk to your security system. There's just a really a vast array of things that go through your network. So that truly is the backbone of everything we do.
Yeah, and also not forgetting, with the popularity of indoor-outdoor living, extending that network outside.
Absolutely.
To cover your entire property.
Yeah, we actually have outdoor all-weather access points to go outside, and those things can be aimed typically at the backyard. And another thing about your network, we want it to be very secure. So we want password protected, good firewalls, and that type of thing. So I occasionally will see somebody's home that doesn't even have a password or something. It's like crazy. But when we set up a network, we definitely want it to be as secure as possible. And Control4 is a very secure platform, you might say. So they're always since day one, they've always been very concentrating on a secure platform there. So it's been very effective.
Kevin, did you want to comment on this?
Yeah, Control4 is one of the companies out there that we do take privacy very seriously. We want to protect people. We want them to be secure, and we want to protect their privacy. So most folks don't understand when they're using like an Alexa or a Google Home or something like that. Typically, anytime they're using that, it's reporting back to Google everything that you're doing. Well, when you interface that with the Control4 system, we have the option. Barney and his team have the option to go in and turn that off, so that it will not communicate anything back to Google or Amazon or anyone like that. So I think that was a really, really good feature that we added that end users absolutely love, is the privacy feature of the Control4 system.
Yeah, and I know Control4, I know security is of utmost importance, but working with someone like Barney also becomes useful, because something as simple as your smart TV, if you don't take a switch off, they can also track you, right, Barney?
I believe that is probably capable. I don't know. We used to sell. We used to sell TVs with cameras built in, and those went bye-bye. I can tell you that. So the TV manufacturers learned their lesson there.
Yeah. So that's great news. Getting back to you, David, what are we looking at as far as timelines? So someone comes to you and they say, yeah, we want to build this beautiful home. At what point are you pulling Barney in? And then how long does it take? How what does that look like to?
Well, it's going to depend on the size and scope of the project. What we like to try to start by assembling what we call a design team initially, which is going to be your architect and your designer, and then potentially a landscape architect, depending on the scope of the project. And then from there, we kind of trickle that down into kind of all of the avenues of a custom home or a custom remodel, whether it's the cabinetry companies that we work with, or the flooring galleries and tile galleries that we work with. And then obviously home automation with Barney Miller. We try to stress, the importance of it. And most people today, it is a pretty common thing in most of the custom homes and remodels that we're doing. At minimum, security systems are a must, and also speakers are pretty much a given. Obviously the TVs are, I forget to say that the TVs are a given because they've been such commonplace for so long. And that's something that we always hardwire for. And really on our end, our electrician has the capability to run the wiring that Barney actually will run in some of those instances, which gives the customers opportunities later on. If they do want to integrate that system later, they're able to. We do stress though that anything, as far as the home automation, just making sure that we're catering to their needs and getting everything that they want. We want Barney Miller involved pretty quickly on that end. Depending on this, it's going to vary so drastically for a remodel to a custom home. Custom homes can take 12 to 16 months depending on the size of the project, and remodels can just kind of vary anywhere. But as far as timeline, and I think Barney Miller would be able to speak more intelligently than I could with how long the process takes coordinating it with our clients. But as far as lengthening a schedule of a project because you've introduced home automation, it is not the case. We integrate it in with the rest of our mechanical rough-ins, and it actually adds 0 time to the project. They coordinate with our electricians so that we get power where it needs to be for them. They're probably there for 2 to 5 days, I want to say roughly, on rough-in. And that's in conjunction with our electrician who's going to be there longer than that anyways. So like I said, you're not adding any time to a project by adding home automation. So it's really, it's not a time crunch or anything by adding that on.
Right. So, I mean, I have to bring up this point because, when I think of builders, we've heard some stories where some builders don't put a closet in for the rack, right? So let's talk a little bit about the rack and making accommodations, in the construction phase for some of this technology. So I'm sure you're aware of what a rack is, and you make the proper closet and a room or whatever. Barney, tell us about the rack, because people see it and the average person, and they don't quite understand it. If you can explain it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So, an equipment rack is the proper place to store equipment. And so we try to store as much there as we can to not have this peripheral equipment all over your house. In addition to that, it gives the proper ventilation for equipment. It gives ease of serviceability. In Kentucky, there's a lot of basements. I don't think that's the case in Florida where you guys are.
No.
But that's a great place, in a utility room for racks. That type of thing is very commonplace. And then we use that as what we call the head end to run wires from there. There is video distribution, there's audio distribution, there's network, there's all kinds of wiring that can come from, either a panel or a rack. But, there's fans, there's lights that can be put in those racks. They can have locking doors on them just to keep people out of them. It's got, our phone number and email address on there. If anybody's got any questions, they know who to contact. So it's just the best way of doing things. Back in the old days, people would try to cram a bunch of equipment into a cabinet next to a fireplace or something, and the equipment would get too hot. A technician to install it would be, down on his hands and knees and trying their best to get things to fit in there. And you're turning equipment sideways to make it fit, things like that. So yeah, a rack is a good investment. Make your equipment last longer and ease of serviceability.
Yeah.
And have that closet available and waiting for the rack.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we always want to know where it's going because early on we've got to run wires, from that location. So yeah, you have to plan ahead for that type of thing.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about the rack too is that people are into hiding technology now. So with Control4 and being able to control all this technology from your smartphone, from a keypad on the wall, from your iPad, all the technology can kind of be hidden and you can just be using your phone or a keypad to control it. So it's all there, but you don't see it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I say. You don't want all that equipment spread around the house and exposed and, all that type of thing.
Yeah, and speaking of hiding things, we don't only in this market hide the wires, we also hide the equipment. I mean, just speakers. More and more people are using voice. I know you had mentioned Josh AI. They have like a microphone that's just flat on the wall. I know you take the aesthetics and the decor very seriously when you're designing all of this.
Yeah, the Samsung Frame TV, it's been incredibly popular. We're doing actually quite a few of those with motorized mounts. So if your TV's above a fireplace and you feel like that's a little too high for normal viewing, when you turn on your TV, the motor brings it down to a more comfortable level. We've actually got invisible speakers. So maybe in certain areas like a dining room or a kitchen or places like that you don't want to see speaker grills at all, even though they get painted typically the color of the wall or the ceiling. We've actually got invisible ones that a little thin coat of mud and then paint over top of it. And this is I think their third generation of those now. So they actually sound quite good. The early ones didn't sound that good, but nowadays they sound very, very good. So there's just all kinds of things that we can hide away. There's a lot of in-wall speakers that sound fabulous nowadays. In-wall subwoofers, we're doing quite a bit of those. So if you don't want that black box sitting out in your room, that type of thing. So yeah, we really concentrate on hiding away a lot of things and making things as invisible as possible.
Yeah, and I know there's furniture like Salamander, and I know somebody like Leon Speakers. I know we had a episode with the founder of Leon, and we talked about the finishes that they use, the encasing for TVs and speakers so that it's coordinated.
And that I think speaks to the importance of working with a builder and an integrator like Barney Miller, so that your clients can think of all of these things and start that early in the process. So when you're building the home, David, Barney's ahead of the game and you're planning for all of this.
Yeah, I mean, in a home theater, when the projector has to come down out of the ceiling, there's definitely some planning around that, right, David?
I mean, we have done some pretty elaborate, just a lot of elaborate stuff with Barney Miller's as far as that stuff goes, whether it's drop down projector screens that are hidden up in the ceiling or drop down TVs that, that in an area, like you said, where you don't want to see it. And I think all of that just ties back into the planning process. And then, locating equipment, locating speakers, touch screens, stuff like that. It all goes back to planning, and the earlier that you can start it, the better. But it always helps.
Yeah, I think we did another Facebook Live on home theater design, right? And we talked about, how the distance from the screen to the seating to, where the speakers are falling, how important that is for the total experience. And I know even with motorized shading, nobody wants to be climbing up a ladder when, for tall windows to get up there and change batteries for motorized shading. So, hard wiring for motorized shading is important. So again, the earlier the better, right?
Absolutely.
To ask the right questions. I'm sure you guys are pros at that. To pull the information out of clients and give them ideas, some things that they may not even have thought of. And just working with the great products that you represent, Barney, like Control4. Clients, I think, could be reassured that they're getting the highest quality possible.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that. I mean, I know we talked about I was just going to say, I think as far as the expandability of it, we've had, whether it's a loft above a garage or something, we've had unfinished areas in a house where, Barney Millers may be doing stuff in the other sections of the house, and this space may be forgotten about. But later on, somebody says, I want to add, this is going to be my home office or my home theater, or what if it's an unfinished portion of the basement. And I think we do a pretty good job of catching that stuff up front. And, while we're under construction, getting things to where they need to be for future rough-in. If it's something that a client doesn't want to take on at that time, you can still plan for the future and get what you need in those places to then grow that network that you're already using.
Yes, that's
Right.
future-proofing your network. And even like you said, maybe you're going to, years from now, it's going to be a theater in the basement, but you need the wiring for that. So that's important. But all right. We do have a couple of questions in the chat that I want to get to. I want to give those a chance before we wrap up. And I think this question is actually really good because it speaks to the retrofit topic that I think is really important. We're talking about a lot of new construction, but David, you said that you also do retrofitting, and Barney, I'm sure many of your clients are not just new construction, they are retrofit, and the challenges. So someone asked, how easy is it to install home automation in a home that's already built?
Yeah, I mean, we do that all the time. Sometimes we need to run wires and sometimes we don't, but I would say lighting control is very easy to retrofit. You basically take out a light switch and put in one that you can control. Networks, we generally like to run wires to the access points and switches, but there is a mesh network that we can do, which is kind of a wireless network that, really gives you some good coverage. Speakers, for the most part, need wires. So we are pretty crafty at running wires in certain places. There are some ways around that, but for the most part, speakers need wires. Many other things we can do. We can put sound bars under TVs. You can play music through those. So there's a lot of different ways of attacking it. But, we do more existing homes than we do new construction just because there's a lot more of them. And, it's something that we do all the time. So it's very important for us to get out and get a site visit, do a walkthrough, and understand the challenges that are there before we would ever come up with a proposal in that regard, because there's generally not plans to look at.
Right. And I think that goes back to, what Kevin was saying earlier about the fact that Control4 is a buildable system too, because, there's so many options that you offer, and you might get a call for one thing, but when you tell, when somebody comes to your showroom, for example, and they see lighting and shading, and, if you introduce Control4 up front and then, show them that they can do these things, as time goes on, it's really nice for them. So they don't get hit with everything.
They can have their wish list, right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we do have one more question in the chat. How can you work in rural areas with satellite internet, which is poor for streaming and music like Spotify? Is there a way to be able to connect with faster speed? That's what.
Verizon, I believe, has a fairly good wireless connectivity. It's a 4G capable hotspot, you might say, for your home now, but it's only available in certain addresses. So it's not so broad as a satellite would be, but it is, it's quite, I don't know the exact specifications on it, but we've had several customers in the last few months switch over to that. And if you're in the right area, so they definitely need to know your exact address to be able to offer that. But it is much more affordable and much faster speed than satellite internet is. But sometimes out in the rural areas, that is definitely a challenge. In our area, I think Windstream sometimes supplies some wired connectivity, but in the past that's been quite slow. They're doing better, but nowhere near that the typical cable companies and those guys are doing nowadays.
Perfect. Okay, well those are the questions that we had in the chat. Before we wrap up, I just want to check to see if anybody had any other points that they wanted to mention, any hot topics. I think
I'd like to maybe go around and just quickly say what your favorite home automation feature is. I'll go first. Mine is, mine is good night, but I also like the fact that, if you're away from home, you can just pull up your Control4 app and check on everything. You can arm things, disarm things. You can see, look at your cameras. I mean, it's amazing.
I would say with mine, it probably is security, but closely followed by being able to play DJ and stream music throughout my house. We really enjoy that, and where you can pull up any song that you could ever imagine and play it in any room. So that's really a favorite thing of mine also.
Cool. Kevin?
I would say lighting control is one of my favorites. Love the lighting control of being able to, like you said, open up my phone, be anywhere in the world. As long as I have an internet connection and a Foresight license, I can access. I can turn lights on and off. I can just control every light in the house. In my house, I have about 40 different loads of lighting, and it's amazing. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Cool.
I had it for 10 years. Couldn't imagine living life without it. Honestly, couldn't.
I think that's what happens once you experience this kind of technology. It's life-changing, and you can't,
Right.
you can't live without
It's
it.
very true. It is absolutely true.
Yes.
What's yours, Risa?
I mean, I do love the accessibility when you're away from home, being able to see what's going on. But really, I think my favorite is the scene setting. If I'm going to entertain and have a dinner party, I love to be able to just push a button and set the lights at a certain color and play my party playlist and just create the mood, for whatever we're doing in the home at the time.
David?
Yeah, Risa, you stole mine. It was the and really, we just recently moved into an older home that we plan to remodel. At some point, and we'll have plenty of home automation inside of it.
Yeah.
So, but for me, when we're doing it with our clients, I think what's really cool at the end is I can't count on two hands how many times I've gone back over to a client's house. And they'll just their expression when they're pulling their phone out and they go, check this out. And they'll hit a button, and you watch their scene kind of take off, whether it's, entertaining scene or good night scene or good morning scene. And they just say, isn't this so neat? And, and just watching it all kind of happen at once just by the touch of a button, I think is pretty cool. So the scenes definitely does it for me.
It's magical, if you ask me.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say it's very magical.
It is very magical.
And if you want to experience that magic, get on over to Barney Miller.
Yeah,
Because he's got a lot of it.
that is true. There really is nothing like experiencing this technology, and we can talk about it.
True.
But when you go, it's really, you'll be wowed, and it'll really, you'll realize, how did I live without this? So, well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and just put up a contact slide so that if anybody would like to contact Barney, or if you want to contact David or Kevin, can you see? Here's everybody's contact email, so feel free to reach out to them. And yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much. I think this was a really great conversation. I think people learned a lot, and I think it's fun when we get to talk a little bit about personal experiences too.
Yeah,
Hey, I just want to make one minor correction on my email. It's just David at Atchison.construction. There's no .com. It's just Atchison.
Oh, that's you're totally
So
right.
I didn't want everybody to send a bunch of emails to
No,
me.
no.
I'm not responding, so
No, that's true. And I apologize for that.
no problem.
All right.
Barney, do you have any closing words?
I just want to thank everybody a whole lot. And, we've got a really great partnership with Control4 and David's company with him and his dad. They're just fabulous to work with. They build incredible houses, and check out their website. They've got an amazing portfolio and very organized, and, always is a smooth process working with them. And again, I invite people to come down to our showroom. We've got free parking right at our back door. Sometimes people get intimidated by going downtown maybe, but we're on Main Street, but right behind our store is free parking, easy to get in our store. I've got a very knowledgeable staff. The average experience is over 20 years at Barney Miller. So, we're very experienced and know what we're talking about. And, with companies that, like Control4 that Kevin works for, and his support for our company has been invaluable. So we don't take lightly our partners. We don't change very often. And, Kevin does a great job for us.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Great. Well, stay tuned for the next Barney Miller Tech and Design Facebook Live coming to you in September. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.